Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. You are ladies and gentlemen, isn't it? Oh, Nyansugel. Babu, it was beautiful to listen to you, and especially around the block men. That's very critical because I'm starting a restaurant and I need that person, and you can't find that person. And when you tell our young people that they should be wanting or aspiring to become that, they think it's a very low-end job. And yet there's this guy called the Salt Bay, you know, the guy that makes salt like this on a meat. He started as a blockman, and now he's a multimillionaire. So, how has today been? Good. Are you guys inspired? You believe you're going to change the world and change yourself? Beautiful. So, here's the thing. How many of you know this artist called Pablo Picasso? Pablo Picasso was a very famous artist, a French artist. And one day he went into a restaurant and had a meal and he realized he didn't have money to pay for the meal. And he told the waiter that, my name is Pablo Picasso, I've got no money to pay for the meal, but I'm going to sign the napkin, and one day you can auction it and make some money. Now, there were two things that could have happened. The waiter could have thought this guy's taking a chance, he's lying. You know, but this guy thought about it and said, probably this guy's telling the truth. And he took the napkin that Pablo Picasso signed, put it aside, and paid for him to have the meal. About 40 years down the line, that napkin was auctioned for over $100,000 because it had a signature by Pablo Picasso. Why am I telling you this? So every time I speak, I could have brought a PowerPoint presentation, you could be seeing slides, it could be all wonderful. And I thought, you know what, sometimes you've got to do this thing out of a place of love and passion. You don't need PowerPoint. But I always do create a mind map that guides me on what I speak about. So when I'm done speaking, if one of you finds me and becomes nice to me, I'm going to sign this paper. And I can guarantee you 40 years from today, you'll sell it for $1 million. So today, I want to talk to you about living an intentional life. What do I mean by living an intentional life? One of the saddest things that I've picked up as a young man growing up in South Africa is that we grew up in a very darker place than you guys grew up in. Things are difficult now. I will not underplay the fact that there are issues in this country. But we didn't have the internet when I was growing up. We didn't have Google, we didn't have WhatsApp, we didn't have Facebook, we didn't have LinkedIn, we didn't have Twitter, we didn't have Instagram. We had nothing but a fax machine. And to have access to a fax machine, you had to know somebody that was working. Otherwise, you would not be able to access the fax machine. But one thing that I've always seen in the young people of my era and the young people of now, there was one powerful ingredient which was missing, was intentions. Or what I call intentionality. Now, what do I mean by that? Many people hope that one day things will change. Have you heard that? One day kuzolunga. Have you heard that? And other people talk about next year, you know? And that's not being intentional. That's leaving things to chance. Does it make sense? Good, one day now uzobalaki. And then mobalaki uzothola umsebenzi or uzobalaki uzaqala business. And I've learned through very painful processes for myself and experiencing from other people that until you have a clear intention about your life, you can be in front of an opportunity like this. Does it make sense? You can be in front of somebody who can help you build a business. But because you're not intentional, you're not going to see that opportunity. Does it make sense? Now, when we talk about intentionality, we also need to question the era and the times that have inspired our belief and our thinking. Now, for a very long time, as human beings, we lived in an era or a time or a process called the Newtonian law. There was a guy called Isaac Newton. Do you remember him? The guy with an apple that fell, and you know, he science bank shy school. All I know that the apple it was a bit of a hoo-ha. Now, Isaac Newton's law is what we call three-dimensional. Talks about three things. The first thing it speaks about is your body, your mass, which is your matter, your body. The second thing it speaks about is time. And the third thing it speaks about its place. So it's your body, which is your matter, who you are. There's a time, which is a continuum. Kunamanje is about, 20 to 3, so we can measure time. And then space. This is the space that we find ourselves in. Does it make sense? So we grew up being limited in our thinking by 3-dimensionality. Okay? If you wanted to do something, you had to be somewhere to do that thing. Does it make sense? Now we're speaking about the 4th Industrial Revolution. I think in South Africa, we're still running in the freeway of technology barefooted, while other countries are on the fast track with super amazing fiber. But we will get there. Now, space and time and body has collapsed because of technology. There are people today who are not here, who are online, but experiencing exactly the same thing that you're experiencing here. Does it make sense? Now, that was made or is made possible by another law, which had been hidden in plain sight for a very long time. And that law is called the quantum model of reality. It is premised on a science called quantum science. Now, this law is multidimensional. It's not 3-dimensional. Isaac Newton's law is 3-dimensional, isn't it? Body, space, and time. The quantum model of reality is multidimensional, but it speaks about profoundly easy things to understand, but profoundly difficult things to do. So the quantum model of reality says, Isaac Newton, there was cause and effect. So when a force is a push or a pull, when you hit a wall, there's an effect that happens, isn't it? So there was cause and effect. Now, in the quantum model of reality, it says that you cause the effect. It's no longer cause and effect. It says that you cause the effect. But how does it say it? It says your external environment, your world, is controlled by what is happening inside of you. Does it make sense? So your thoughts. So the thoughts are the language of the brain, and the emotions are the language of the body. So if your brain vibrates at a particular vibration and begin to think in a particular thought processes and begins to believe a particular process and believe it without even an inch of a doubt, this law says the real world has got no choice but to conform. Does it make sense? All right, let's make a quick example. How many of you go to church here? Ushaya mapiano wena. Mabathi bante wena usema piano wena awuye sonto. Now, if you do go to church, and if you do once in a while read the Bible, there's a particular scripture, I don't know what the scripture is, but there's a particular incident that happened. See, Jesus Christ says to this guy, go to the next town, and in that town you'll find a donkey parked on the side. When you want to take this donkey, there's a person who's going to ask you, what are you doing with my donkey? And you're going to tell this person that the king, who is Jesus Christ, wants this donkey. So Jesus Christ tells this guy this story. This guy doesn't question him. He goes to that town. And when he gets there, what happens? He finds the donkey. And as he takes the donkey, what happens? The guy comes to him and says, what are you doing to my donkey? And he remembers exactly what Jesus Christ said. He must say, tell him that the king wants that donkey. And he tells this guy that the king needs this donkey. And this guy lets it go. And he goes back with his donkey to Jesus Christ. Now, here's what used to drive me crazy. How did he know? Just think about it. How did you know there's a place that has a donkey? How did you know there was a guy who's going to come and ask a question, a particular question? And how did you know what answer he should give this guy to give to that other person? Now, ladies and gentlemen, Jesus Christ understood the quantum model of reality. And he taught it, and he lived it. Now, I want to share with you a story. And this story happens in the middle of America. Now, the middle of America is the farmland of America. That's where there's grain, there's beef. America is fed by the middle of America. Now, there was this very wealthy farmer. He had a farm that was over 500,000 hectares. Massive, massive farm. Had cattle, had all kinds of livestock. Now, this particular farmer, one morning he wakes up, does his normal routine, has breakfast, takes a walk and opens for his animals, and then he goes to the barn. The barn is where they prepare the food for animals. He gets into the barn and he starts working. As he starts working, like you guys earlier on before lunch, when it is time for lunch, your body tells you, isn't it? Because your body clock, or what we call your circadian cycle, tells you it is time to nourish the body. So the same guy feels good to put you know? But he says, before Nyidla, let me confirm what it is lunchtime. So he reaches in his pocket, he searches for a watch to confirm the time. He doesn't find the watch. He searches his right pocket, he doesn't find the watch. He says, you know what? Probably I left it at the side of my bed, Mangvugekseni. He quickly rushes inside the house. He goes and looks at this watch, he can't find it. And he says to him, perhaps when I was walking to open for my animals, I could have dropped this watch there. Then he takes that exact same path, he doesn't find it. And now he begins to worry. What happened to this watch? Because you see, this watch is what's called an heirloom. It means every person who's a male in this family, when they take over the farm, they also get given this watch. So this watch has been with this family for 5 generations. And it worries him. What is he going to say to his son? Then he says, maybe when I was working inside the barn, because I was doing a lot of movement, that's why I could have dropped the watch. He goes back there, he searches for it, he doesn't find it. He goes back into his house, he sits in the kitchen, and he begins to think, but he's thinking in a very worried way. And as he contemplates what could have happened, he hears from a very far distance young people playing. So he thinks, maybe I should employ these young people to come and help me find this watch. He calls this boy, about 14 of them. And he says to these boys, I have lost a watch. He describes exactly how this watch looks like. And he says to them, whoever finds this watch, I will give him $100. Now for a young kid, $100 is a lot of money. All 14 of them rush into the barn, spend 2 hours or so turning that place upside down, but nobody finds the watch. They come back to him, they say, sir, we're very sorry, we couldn't find the watch. Now his day becomes even more darker. And these boys, they all leave. But after a couple of seconds, he hears a knock on the door. He opens the door and he looks. It's one of the boys that was part of the 14. And he says to this young man, how can I help you? And this young man looks at the farmer and says, sir, can I please get an opportunity to go and search for this watch again? Now the farmer looks at this young boy and says, but you were part of the other kids. There was 14 of you. What makes you think you alone will find this watch? This young man looks at this farmer and says, sir, all I'm asking for is an opportunity. That's all. The young man looks at this, the farmer looks at this young man and he thinks, I've got nothing to lose. He says to this young man, you can go ahead and look. This young man disappears. The farmer is sitting in his kitchen, extremely worried. His heart is throbbing with pain because how is he going to explain what just happened? After 40 minutes, he hears a loud noise, doof, 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 on the door. He rushes to the door. He opens the door. It's this young man. Now something magical happens. This young man opens his hands, and inside his hands is the watch. Now this farmer grabs this watch with great enthusiasm, reaches for the back of his pocket, pulls out all the money that he had, gives it to this young man. This young man grabs the money. As he runs off, the farmer says to this young man, wait a minute. Before you leave, I want you to explain to me that you and 13 of your friends for over 2 hours could not find this watch. But you alone, in less than an hour, you were able to find this watch. How did you do it? It goes back to the question of intentionality. This young man looks at the farmer and said, sir, I have a dream. And when we initially came with my friends and you promised us $100, I knew that if I could get this $100, I would sow it into the dream that I have. But then he said, sir, what happened is when I came with my friends, I had lost my intentionality. I was now part of a group because it is easy to hide inside a group. It is easy to say we are the youth, we are unemployed, we are not given opportunities. But the question is, how many opportunities have you said no to individually? Because you thought, no, it's not my thing. How many of you have been said, come and start from the bottom. Shanyela kala. You might become a supervisor. And you said, no, but I've got a degree. Why finding a Shanyel? So this young man says, sir, I went back And I came back to you and I requested for a second opportunity. Because now my intentions were very clear that inside that group I was lost. Because I was not being myself. But I came back with the intention of getting that $100 because I needed to sow it into my dream. And then he explains what he did. He said, "Sir, here's what I did." He said, "I went back to the barn. I found a central place. I sat down. I closed my eyes. I removed all the clutter and the noise. I connected my head and my heart with one intention. Just one intention. To listen for the tick of a watch." And he said, I went in depth. And he said, within a very small space of time, from a very faint and long distance, I could hear very, very softly the tick, tock, tick, tock. He said, "Sir, I stood up. I walked towards the general direction where I believed that sound was coming from." He said, "I closed my eyes. I connected my head and my heart with one intention. To listen, to feel, to hear the sound of tick and tock." He said, "I sat there," and he said, "Suddenly the noise increased in its intense." And he says, "I could hear tick tock, tick tock." He said, "I stood up. I walked very closer to where I heard the sound." And he said, "Eventually, I found the watch." So what can we learn from this young man? We can learn the overarching principle of intentionality. Until you personally live an intentional life, you will always identify yourself with a group. Does it make sense? You will not use the word I, you will use the word and expression we. Because it's easy to say we, but it's difficult to say I, because when you say I, you now own the responsibility. Does it make sense? So we will learn 5 very simple principles. The overarching principle is intentionality. But the first principle we learn from this young man is purpose. When you are part of a group, it becomes difficult for you to understand your individual purpose. Some of you have studied the degrees and diplomas because your friends were studying those degrees and diplomas. Not because it was within the gift that God has deposited inside of you. You did it because somebody else said, "Oh, let's all do marketing." But you never ask yourself, am I really a marketing person? Is this really how I want to express my life as a marketer? So the first thing we learn from this young man is, unless you search deeply for your own purpose, it will become difficult for you to live a life of intentionality. The second thing we learn from this story is passion. This young man had a dream and he was deeply passionate about his dream. And he knew that for this dream to become a reality, he had to do things differently. I meet a lot of young men and women, and they tell me a very beautiful story. And they say, "Mr. Selikane, I send you an email because I want you to become my mentor." And I said to them, "Congratulations, you must be really special. Sending one email. After you send me one email, I'm going to rush and suddenly mentor you." I said, "No, I'm not interested in you. I'm interested in what is it that you want to offer me." Because life, ladies and gentlemen, it's about reciprocity. You cannot get unless you're willing to give. And sadly, too many people just want to get without giving. People that always give are those that are passionate about fulfilling their destiny in their lives. And this young man was passionate about his dream, and therefore he went back and he asked for a second opportunity. That's the second thing we learn. You've got to be passionate about what you do. The third thing we learn in this story, it's about performance. When he was part of a group of 14, it was easy for him to hide and not do the best that he could do. Does it make sense? It was easy. And he realized that if I really want to become the best that I know God wants me to become, I've got to stand on my own and begin to perform. Nimrod said to you, go and say thank you to the guys that are cleaning the toilets. He didn't have to tell you to do that. He didn't have to tell you to do that. If you live a life of intentions, you understand this one profound truth that each and every one of us are connected. We are one ball, big ball of energy, and we are connected. And the saddest things that we do is we measure people by the weakness of our eyes. So you go and say, this man will clean the toilet. You even know probably he owns that that whole company, Yama Toilet. You don't know. Do you know? You don't know. So you go past your potential employer all the time because you look at him in a particular way. Because you yourself do not live a life of intentionality. Now, in New York City, they did a social experiment. There's a guy from Israel. He's a concert pianist. I'll tell you his name so that you can Google him. His name is Lahav Shani. Now, Lahav Shani is a concert pianist. Do you guys know what a concert pianist is? It's a guy who plays piano in a concert as a solo artist. And he gets paid millions and millions of dollars to travel the world and play. So in New York City, some social scientists ask themselves this one question. Does this guy perform only when he gets paid and when there's a crowd watching him, or is he a consistent performer? That's the first question they ask themselves. And they said, but how do we find the truth? Here's what they did. They took a massive grand piano, they put it in the middle of Central Park, they put him in the chair, they attached some scientific stuff in his body, and they said to him, he must play the exact concert he was going to play that evening, which was sold out. And people in Central Park were just walking past, they didn't even recognize him, and he was playing these songs. And he played the exact set, the first set of the concert, and then he finished. And some people would pass, drop $2, $3. When they counted the money that people gave him, was less than $100. But he was playing the songs that he was going to play at a concert which is sold out that evening. That evening he went to the Metropolitan in New York to play the concert. Again, they hooked him up with this technology stuff to measure if there'll be a difference between his performance when nobody knew who he was, when they did not pay to watch him, and if his performance will become different when he gets paid and when people are watching. And the results were amazing. He performed exactly the same way. When nobody knew who he was, when they did not pay, the same way as people who knew him and they paid to watch him. And what does that tell us? It says you don't know who's watching you. You don't know, do you? You don't know when they say there's a temporary for a weekend. But for a weekend, come and work for 3 days. Now, I hear people say, when I become a manager, I will do A, B, C, and D. And I say, well, you're never going to become a manager. Because you want to become a manager, think like one, speak like one, work like one, show up like one, connect like one, network like one, then you'll become one. Does it make sense? You want to become successful? You really want to become successful? Find successful people. Hang around successful people. Learn their habits. Get to understand which books they read, who they hang around with, what do they think? Because as human beings, we learn the best when we model other people. But here's what I know about a lot of young people, and I get this all the time. So I would meet a young person. I'm from Tembisa originally. And by the way, me and Simpiwe have been doing these events for the past 25 years here in Orange Farm. Some people don't even know that. For the past 25 years, we've been running youth seminars here in Orange Farm, paying for them with our own money. And now we've got great sitters that are now showing up. And we've been doing it for the past 25 years. I get young people that come to me and say, hey, Mr. Selekane, hey, I'd like to come and see you. Hey, Marwana, busy. Then I ask them the question, did you try contacting me? And what do you think the answer is? No. Then I say, shut up. No, shut up, because you are assuming I'm busy without even checking if I'm busy. Why? Because man says nonke, you make assumptions about people. Yeah, Baba baso. Baba says baso. But you have never humbled yourself and went to that person and say, hi, this is who I am. I have this degree, I have this diploma. How can I help you? Not help me. How can you help him? Because now the language is different. I've got people that come to me and say, I've been sending CVs. And I laugh and say, sending CVs to who? No, you romela CV ko kae kae, ka romela CV ko kae kae. And I'm saying the problem is you're doing exactly what other people are doing. Everybody's sending a CV. And nobody shows up. You guys watch movies, yes? Do you know this guy about Steven Spielberg? Steven Spielberg is a director. You know how he became a director? He always wanted to become a director. And he'd go to Hollywood, they say, who are you? He says, I'm Steven Spielberg, but Raymond. So what have you directed? He says, no, I've directed nothing, but I think I can direct. They say, listen, have a nice day. But you know what Steven Spielberg did? He kept going to Hollywood. And one day, he realized that there was an office which was empty. So he checked this office for 3 days. He realized nobody comes to this office. You know what he did? He went and printed his name, Steven Spielberg, director, and he plugged it outside the door of that office. And he sat in that office. I do like, what every day was saying, I'd like a briefcase. And at this one day, some director was sick and wanted somebody to direct a small thing. And somebody said, no, you know what, there's a guy, Steven Spielberg, he's a director. His office is more corner, mama, please fetch him quickly. And somebody knocked at his door and said, Mr. Spielberg, we have a challenge, the director's not here. Here's the script, can you please direct this? That's how Steven Spielberg became big. He didn't say, I've been sending CVs to the executives at Hollywood, they're ignoring me. He was very intentional. He said, you know what, I'm going to become a director. And not only a director, I'm going to become the best director. So what am I going to do? I'm going to show up. Ladies and gentlemen, most of you don't show up. What do you call this? My piano, you know, this. There's a very funny dance. It's as if people are sick, you know. Hankari Kasper Mang what kyo what ausani. But what out Lasamikoti and the holes people have never seen in your life. Because here's what's very sad. Poor people value entertainment. Wealthy people value personal development. I like to tell this sad story. You know Maponya Mall in Soweto? Yes, something unbelievable happened there. When Maponya Mall opened, they opened an exclusive books and news cafe. 6 months, the exclusive books was closed. The news cafe was the most profitable news cafe in the country. You value entertainment more than you value your own personal development. Because you're not living lives that are driven by an intention. You're living lives that are driven by luck. You hope that one day you're going to be lucky. It's not going to happen. Luck is sold out. If you did luck, the stock was a very khale. My brother, stocks are luck. Si fedile. Now ka ya fenda ka ka barnal oletleleng na le kotanya neng o tshwantse ile mo seng. Kota tseo a di sana muro, a di sana juice ene dina le ora khale. Now, and by the way, the Calvary is not showing up. You have to do this yourself. Does it make sense? So the third thing we learn from this young man is you have to perform, whether somebody is watching you or they are not watching. You know, nowadays it's difficult to find a young man who is something. He said to this guy, the first thing they're going to ask you, and then you give him the lowest denominator, say, go for 20 rand. And you know what they say? 20 rand. 20 rand. And then I say, do you have 20 rand? Isn't it funny? Here's a man being offered a job for 20 bucks. He does not want 20 bucks, but he doesn't have 20 bucks. Oh, 20 rand. And I say, do you have 20 rand? Because when I was growing up, I knew this profound truth. That I am the architect of my life. That my mother, the government, my brothers, my cousin, they are not going to show up for me until I show up for myself. The fourth principle we learn from this young man is the power of positioning. He said to this old man, he said, I went and I found a place in the middle of the barn. So he positioned himself. so that you would have access to this room that was in a holistic way. Now, positioning in these modern times that you guys live in, we call it branding. What is your brand? Are you a no-name brand? When I'm going to go Pick and Pay, the beans are cool, and then the no-name brand. Saku di fela ka speed. Saku di fela ka speed. And usually the no-name brand is specialing the whole month. Because nobody cares for a no brand. Am I wrong or am I right? Now, when we're talking about brand and position, let me just give you an example that can hit home to you very quickly. Let me talk about 3 retail shops. Checkers, Spar, and Woolworths. These are 3 different brands, isn't it? And they position themselves differently to the market. Checkers, they are positioning key price is cheap. One can you the shelf but stock. Nothing, no sophistication at all. Yes, go to your Checkers. Yeah, you know that. So they are positioning, their brand is about price. Then you go to Spar. What is Spar's brand and positioning? Spar's brand and positioning is convenient. Okay? You go to Spar because what you want, you need. You don't, why talk unto you, like urgently. That's why you like Spar 450 one, because they know. And where do they position the Spars? Inside suburbs. Not outside. Inside. Because the people want to buy quick things. So that's the positioning. Yes, Spar. Woolworths. What is their positioning? Quality. Even Limoya wako Woolworths. You can Woolworths. Limoya wako Woolworths is quality. I'm telling you, Limoya wako Woolworths is quality. You know, go check us. Utatola about when say meeting mo korembabua. Mo ara check us. Go Woolworths arbu. You know, we just. Now, here's the thing. All these 3 shops, they've got a delicacy. You guys know what a delicacy is, where they sell hot food. All 3 of them. Checkers in Aliona, Spar in Aliona, Woolworths in Aliona. Now, I like to go to Woolworths and buy the Woolworths chicken. Buy a rotisserie. You know, a little bit, so I say, because Woolworths organic. So this chicken is called rotisserie. And it's an organic chicken. Organic. So each time I go to Woolworths and I buy this chicken, I make up a story about the history of how this chicken got to there. You understand? So I'm thinking, because they say these are organic chicken, what kind of farm are they bred? And I'm thinking, oh, it's a beautiful farm. The grass is green. You know, there's water. And the chickens are minding their business, you know. These are organic chickens, you understand? They are routine where they get, education. And I'm thinking, now when they're going to cut them, put them in the guillotine, how do they do it? I think they play classical music. La, 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 la. And this chicken just make a nice line and they go, And they get chopped nicely, they get packaged nicely, and they get put in that Woolworths truck. Woolworths in Swagir. In what's organic. Huh? Matara thing are right, I smoke. Let driver thing I chicken fella, because it's very organic chicken na girgamo. Chicken indicate, So I think, how do they deliver them at the back of the Woolworths? Because that's where they deliver them. Now, most of these Woolworths trucks, they nearly lift. They've got this automatic lift. They press yazo, and they pack those chicken nicely. They press the lift, and then by push the trolley, and they put them in that machine. That machine is and so. Spar has it, Woolworths has it, and Checkers has it. Same machine, same everything, but it's just the difference in how one does things. And they put them in that thing, goes like crazy, and very pack nice. So nak fitla mo le he. Ke dumedisa ke ulwetse. Ha o kene fela re batla go. No. This is a quality brand. What do you mean? It's like a smile. Hi, how are you? And they greet you back in a big smile. And but how can we help you? You say, no, I would like to have a relationship with this chicken and that chicken. Now I observe how they bring it to me. But banally the tweezer, you know tweezer? They pick up the chicken on a tweezer, by moskaleng, okay? And then price it out. Have you seen that? And then manale, the packaging is a brown paper, which has got insulation. Banga, that chicken, they put it in the brown paper. You must go and see. They roll it 3 times. That's a standard operational procedure. 1, 2, 3. And then they take their price tag, they put it at the end. And once buffets, they don't just give it to you. They present it to you. Huh? And of course, I then accept it, you know. And I put it in a trolley, and I push the trolley. Nice, you know. I'm naughty and everything. I get onto my car. Now, I even changed the way I drive. Because it's a Mali. You know, 60 in a 60 zone, 80 in an 80 zone. So I indicate, I know left. I get home. I take this pack of chicken and I put it on the carpet and I put my cutting mat. And I reverse engineer their process. Please, you know. Because you recycle it. It's a recyclable paper. You understand? I take out the price tag and I unfold it 3 times. And then the aroma. And then I put it more metinyak, you know, then I take a shear scare, Robon. Cut a thigh, drumstick, plating, my salad, make a little prayer, and then enjoy my chicken. We kill one chicken, I go check us. Oh my God, that chicken is like this, you know? Oh my God. Checkers, people are going to kill me anyway, it's a fire. We don't sue each other that bad in this country. But if you've seen the checkers, I mean, it's a crazy thing. Anytime by accidentally, I look at checking us, just to check, you know, I get just to check. And imagine who it's a guy. The farm where this chicken comes from. Kimakitas beggar. Kidi kulube. Kidi khaka, you know, all kind of things. It's a mess. And I'm thinking, how do they guillotine these chickens? Now, without being very funny, have you seen the ladies check us? Oh my God. These are like big sisters. They don't take crap from anybody. I need water. I'm telling you, go to check us. I'm telling you the truth. Now, have you seen the packaging? Go check us. So the implications are, but what I can chicken now, bamat. Go, you'll see. I'm telling you the truth. And how do you eat that chicken? On the side of the road, you tear this thing. So think about it. I'm talking about branding and positioning. Would you rather people think about you as a chicken from Woolworths? Or would you rather people think about you as a chicken from Checkers? Of course. But you have to behave like one. You have to speak like one. You have to walk like one. You have to connect like one. Does it make sense? And you know, we used to run a youth employment program. And when these young people came for interviews, hey, man. Hey, Because these people, they dress like suspects and not prospects. I'm not saying wear Giorgio Armani suit, what. I am bet, well, sporty, just be presentable. Because Baba ngal generous what happened. Hey, the phone is aga, hey, because if you live a life without intention, you think everything is an accident. So, ladies and gentlemen, really look at your brand. When you go for an interview, really for, why should they hire you and not the other 3 people? Why? You have the same diploma, you went to the same university, you've got the same educational background, you went through the same learnership. Why should they hire you? Now, let me tell you what you don't know, which really worries me about you. Now, there's a thing called digital footprint. Do you know what that means? It means over 65% of the people that go for interviews don't get those jobs because they don't qualify. They don't get those jobs because they've got a negative digital footprint. What you post on Facebook, on Instagram, all of these things, you can't delete them, by the way. They follow you. And if we're not a poster, I'm telling you, who's going to employ you? I'm not going to employ you. You understand? And I see these kids, young kids. Give one of my course on lockdown, most of Africa actually, about what is Savannah, you know? So you've got to question your digital footprint because your digital footprint is part of your brand. So I've got a very sad story. This lady was going to be hired by this bank. She was hired by this bank. It was her first day. So, who do you receptioning? What better skate this is nyani, Lima kusha ale as coach. Lewa bisa working. Eh? Fish what? Yeah. Who do you receptioning ka miniskate ka fish what? Unka sniper sa fish what? Wa poster. Ha! Kifitile hen. Wow, she's posting. Now, the guys in this company, they watch the digital space because it tags their venues in it. Yeah, it tag. No, this is taking one of our receptions, but that's a big thing. They do this thing, they do search. And they found out the reception here, HR, go block number mamang. They phoned the reception, but the reception, is there a lady dressed like this, Mobaria? But who is she coming to? But no, she's starting today. Who is she going to report to? But okay, put us through to this person. And they say to this person, so this lady that is coming to start today, what was Limhirit or say? Now she's going to become this and this and this. Well, dismiss her contract. She has just threatened our brand. And they say, we'll send you the post that she's just put on. They send the post to the manager. The manager thinks, oh my God, there's nothing I can do. The rules of this company is if you are coming there and you threaten their brand, they can dismiss you immediately. So she gets called into the office. The guy prints out the post. Says, this is you. She says, yes. Says, unfortunately, this business and this brand, we don't associate with this. It was nice knowing you. Thank you very much. And she lost the job. Be careful what you put on social media. You're going to suffer for a very long time. I'm telling you. Because no organization wants to risk a brand they built over years with hundreds of millions of rands for you. They're not going to do it for you. So your brand and your positioning is very critical. When you are angry at somebody, don't go to social media. When somebody posts something stupid, don't respond to it. Because I know Sama, you can't delete it. People think you can delete social media. You can't. So the way that you position yourself as a prospective employee determines whether you become the person that gets chosen over the other 3 people. Not because you like, you're beautiful, no. Because you've got a brand that resonates with this organization, therefore they're going to take you. So that's the 4th thing we learn from this story. Position yourself proper so that you can have access to things. Does it make sense? The 5th and the last principle we learn from this young man is persistence. Persistence. He knew that he had to work harder and differently than he did when he was with his friends. And he was willing to do whatever it took to get that watch. Most of you are not persistent. You want to start a business today and become successful tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, it takes 20 years to become an overnight success. And by the way, there's no early and there is no late. There's just appointed time. But that appointed time complements you. Mandela became a president at 72. Was he late? No. It was his appointed time. Morgan Freeman, how many of you know Morgan Freeman, the actor? He started hitting big time when he was over the age of 50. But he was persistent. He kept doing the work. Most of you are not willing to do the work. You're not. Speed, everything must just be quick. Yes, we're in the fourth industrial revolution. Technology is going to help us to do things much more quicker, but it will not change the nature of time. You understand? And it will not change the golden rules. You get to the top by working hard to becoming an innovator. Make sense? So here's what I want to leave with you. That all of you were born intentionally and not accidentally. And you were born with gifts and talents that nobody else has. And it's never too late for you to forgive yourself, relook at your life, and reclaim your dream. Because if Colonel Sanders started Kentucky at the age of 65, he was persistent all his life. He kept trying and failing and trying and failing and trying and failing. Because you will fail, not once, not twice, not 3 times, many a times. But every time you fail, you have learned one lesson of how not to do that thing the way that you're doing it. Does it make sense? And eventually, ladies and gentlemen, you are the generation that has the greatest opportunities. But you have a challenge. You have the blessings of time and the curse of time. The blessings of time because you're young, the curse of time because you think you have time. And therefore, you do not live your lives with intentions. So from today, I want you to be intentional about each and everything. If you want to start a business, be intentional about it. If you want to get employed, don't hope it's going to happen. Set a clear strategy and follow it through up until it happens. Because it will happen. And I hope that 5 years from today, it will be you on the stage telling your story, how just this one moment where you were told that you need to become intentional changed your lives and you became a better human being. Thank you.